Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Triangle BNI. My name is Mike Manning. BNI is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in the Triangle, if you're not from around here, it is the Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill area of central North Carolina. We've got about 40 chapters going, almost 700 members that are either looking to start a business or expand their small business, and BNI is a great way to go. And if you know somebody that is looking to do that, or if you're looking to do that, we'd love to hear from you. You can call the BNI office, 919-465-1667. Talk to Steve, Mary, or Brenda. And our guest today is Matt Yablunosky from Retain Revenue, a credit card processor. He's in RDO5, which is Triangle Business Builders. They meet Thursdays at 9 a.m. at Trolley Irish Pub in Briar Creek. Matt is also a consulting director for BNI, so he brings a lot of experience to the show. Matt, glad to have you here today.
Great to be here. Thanks as always, Mike.
All right, so BNI, let's do this first. So we explain people during the show what if you've never been to a BNI meeting, and each week there's a featured speaker, 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and there's always one way to introduce the speakers through the member bio sheet. So we're going to start with you, Matt Yablunosky, Retain Revenue, credit card processor, location.
The Greater Triangle and beyond.
There you go. Years in this business.
This is my 7th year.
Okay. Previous types of jobs. My second favorite question out of all this, because there's always a story.
There's always a story, right? It's pretty wild. You always wonder at some point, like, how did I get here? So I am that former master's degree educated collegiate cheerleader who really took that, became that real passionate sports marketer. And next thing you know, I was an out of work radio advertising salesman. Picked myself up by my bootstraps, dusted myself off, and became an independent credit card processor. That was the fall of 2011.
About a high school job.
High school
job.
Previous
types.
There wasn't a whole lot of time for that. One of the most memorable jobs, I think, honestly, was laying concrete in the summers back in high school, and it was great. It was the vocational tech job, from back then, the industrial arts teacher. And it got me in great shape for the upcoming football and wrestling seasons, no doubt.
Okay. Your spouse?
I am betrothed to the lovely and enchanting Miss Lori Yablunosky. We have been married for 17 years now with 3 young boys keeping us all honest and afloat every day.
Is there a good story how you two met?
It was the cool grade school story. Hey, a friend of mine thinks you're cute, Maybe we should get together. Well, how about she actually approached me? How about that?
Well,
had our first date October of 99. Took her out to the Lexington Barbecue Festival out in Lexington to see Travis Tritt and about 100,000 other people. And I figured if she can tolerate that for a day, then it'll warrant the next date. And it did, and we're both very, very happy.
Thankfully, there was a next date. Any animals in the house?
None.
All right. Hobbies and interests?
Family, football, fishing, all those fun things. It's a real balance between work and business. There's no doubt about that. But I cherish the family time. There's no doubt.
Good. And you got the wide age range of kids, so different things all the time, right?
We do, and we were joking off air before the beginning. We got 3 kids. They're all expanding now, going into 10th grade, 7th grade, and then 1st grade. And it seems like the 1st grader rules the roost. The 10th grader basically lets me know when he needs anything other than that. Dad, I got it. I'll call you if I need you.
And whoever can drive is divide and conquer. Okay, here's where everybody needs to be today, right?
That's exactly it.
Your burning desire is to?
Burning desire. Let's look at this threefold. I would say to be valued by my clients, to be loved by my family, and to be surrounded by friends.
That'll work. I like that. Your key to success?
I look at success 3 different ways. Number 1, you got to know what you're doing. The pure competence level has to be there no matter what your profession is. Secondly, you got to know you know what you're doing. Confidence matters in everything. It doesn't mean cockiness or arrogance, but to know what you're doing isn't good enough. You have to have the confidence to know you know what you're doing. And in BNI, you learn pretty quick that's still not enough. The truly successful people, I believe, know what they're doing. They have the confidence to know they know what they're doing. But more importantly, they become known for what they know. And that's truly how the know, like, and trust from BNI is in action every day throughout this region.
Yeah, and you can only you get it people have a good sense of who's faking it, and you can really only do that for so long. After a
Yes.
while, you're eventually gonna come upon a question that you can't answer, or you answer it incorrectly because the person asking you that question kinda knows it.
Yep.
Yeah, so alright, so my favorite question out of all these, all the introduction here, something no one knows about me.
Hopefully, there's very little of that, truthfully. Um, I will give you this. This wristwatch that you're looking at right there, that wristwatch stopped working about 10 years ago. Very few people know that. There's only one member of the BNI chapter that knows that for whatever reason that is. But I continue to wear it because I like the way it looks and I like the way it feels.
No desire to replace that with one that works?
No desire to replace it.
Okay.
I think it's a little more complicated than that. At least that's what the watch repair guy told me.
Just plug it in at night, right? Like everything else, huh? All right, so doing some research on you. We've known each other a little while, but just doing some research on you for the show. The thing that jumped out at me on your bio is that there's a line that says, "What your best product?" And you said it is you. Love that. Not many people are willing to step up on there and say that.
People buy yourself first, right? They buy your
Mhm.
product second. I truly believe that. In my world, I am that self-employed independent credit card processor. So I describe it all the time. I don't have an employer, but I have dozens and dozens of bosses that contact me every day. So what's that point of differentiation? There's only two things I can ever provide a client. What we have here on pen and paper, these contractual terms, access to that, and then access to me. So I would honestly hope and think that most people that are joining BNI would look at themselves as being the top product.
I don't know that they break it down that simple because it really is. They're in most professions, if you're a money manager, if you're a physician, and a lot of others, they get to know you. And like I tell the story with my brother that with the small businesses we have, he's every now and then, so a banker will say, "Well, who handles your corporate account?" I'm like, "Okay, here, I'm gonna make this real simple for you. A, my brother does it, and B, he's followed June to 6 banks with all of our accounts over probably 8 or 9 years. Wherever June goes, he goes. Doesn't matter where the bank is. He trusts June
Sure.
that much. And which goes back to your point is they're buying you
Right.
because one of the reasons is the service is good, the product is good, but they know they can call you anytime they want, right?
That's absolutely right. Customer service, in my opinion, should be all the reasons why somebody hires you.
And that differentiates because there's I don't know how many credit card processors there are in the triangle, but I know there's plenty. But in any industry, what's you always get asked the question, what separates you from your competition? And more times than not, it's I care about my clients. I look at it more as a
You have to. It's that level of accountability. I'm only as good as the clients I have.
yeah. So status of retained revenue. This is early August 2018. What's the status of retained revenue right now? How are we looking?
Growing more every day. It's fascinating. It's an industry, quite honestly, I should have gotten into years ago. What I realized pretty quickly is there's no shortage of credit card processors out there. There's a shortage of good ones. And that's not to be self-effacing,
Mhm.
but there's no barrier to entry at all whatsoever in the industry. There's no training, licensure, certification, ongoing educational standards that must be met. So as a result, there's a lot of people that do it. There's few that do it well, and largely that's why the merchant community, I think, has such, let's just say, trepidation whenever there's talk of, hey, this might be a good opportunity for you
Yeah.
to consider, or might be a change might be in order here. They've heard it all the time before, and it's no surprise that oftentimes they were let down in the industry. And one guy, I'm trying to change that.
One of my favorite things for a 10-minute speaker to do is talk about the myths of their industry because we all not in that industry have we think we have an idea of, oh, well, this is this easy or this must be real difficult to do. What are a couple of good myths about the credit card processing industry? Remember, we only have 50 minutes left.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. How much time do you have in the show? Um, some of the most common myths are, hey, those rates are the rates and there's no changing that. Well, to some degree. There is a very successful estate planning attorney in our chapter. And his viewpoint is where there's a will, there's a way. So that's incorrect. That's a myth. Sure, the Visas, MasterCards, Discovers the World have to cover their costs initially, but there's ways that you can lower that liability, lower those fees for clients. It just comes down to how well you know the system and how much you're willing to go to bat for your client. So pricing is always certainly one aspect. Funding schedules of today's processing revenue, how quickly that can reach my bank account. There is no shortage of myths and misperceptions. To some degree, that could be either a challenge for me or it could be a great selling point. Oftentimes, when I'm making a recommendation to a merchant client on where I feel I can best serve them, I'll get that blind look like, are you sure about? I've never heard that
Yeah.
before. Now,
Or the other guy didn't
it's,
say anything about
you
that.
know, the bank never told me that. Is that really true?
There's a reason the bank didn't tell you that.
So it's a fascinating industry. There is great demand for people that do it well.
What got you into it?
Former radio advertising client of mine. Number one, out of need. So flashback to the summer of 2011. My wife and I are expecting our third child, and I just lost my job. So we are very soon going to have two unemployed parents, three kids, and I'm going through a job search in the summer of 2011. So you talk about
Yeah.
a little bit of pressure.
Mhm.
And I say it all the time. It's like that last scene in Christmas Vacation with Chevy Chase when he just says, "Hand me the Tylenol." So I give my wife a lot of credit for this because 4 months into the job search, I mean, I know a lot of people. There's been no shortage of dialogue, but I have very, very few opportunities I can act on right now immediately. And she said, go talk to those who know you best.
Good.
Well, I thought that's kind of what I've been doing for the last couple months, but let me go for a jog. Let me clear my head. And I realized the people that know you best if you're in sales are your clients. So I went back to about 3 or 4 of my top clients and said, "Hey, give it to me straight. I got let go. I'm trying to better myself. I got some obligations here. What do you think I should do? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? Pour me the cup of coffee,
Mhm.
black straight up, no cream or sugar.
Yep.
What are areas you think I should consider? What are areas you think I should avoid?" And one of my former heating and cooling clients said, "You should get into credit card processing." And I said, "Credit card processing? I don't even know what that means. Tell me more about that, Bridget." Bridget Kusher of All Trade Contractors. And she said, anytime that I want to secure a credit card payment from one of my clients, I need somebody to do that. You'd be phenomenal at that industry. You're such a good, honest guy. There seems to be a shortage of that. Go check it out. That was the fall of 2011, and I never looked back.
Nice. Behind every successful man, there's a smart wife.
Indeed.
Oh, good for you. All right. So you have had a very interesting entrance into BNI. Usually people visit a chapter or two, they fill out the application, they get accepted, everything's smooth and starting to make money soon.
Yeah.
Yours was a little different.
Mine was a little different. And I go back to Bridget a little bit. I remember when the advertising budget was dwindling and dwindling and dwindling. I know some of that local radio advertising budget was starting to go more and more towards BNI because it was working for her. And a lot of folks in the credit card industry said, "Yeah, you should get into the BNI thing." So, I test the waters. I dip my foot in. I thought, this is cool.
Mhm.
Nothing is taken for granted in this room. I don't necessarily need to do this. So what? I'm going to buy into an organization. Somebody's going to refer me based on the fact that we're both putting money into the hopper and spending our time every week getting to know each other. That's not a good enough reason for me to earn your referrals. But that was quickly diminished. I got to meet a bunch of people, got to listen, learn. I thought, you know what? This is it. This could make a lot of sense. Joining Triangle BNI could be a great way to start my profession across a lot of different angles. And the more conversations I had, the more interviews I had with members, I thought, this is going to happen. This is going to be a great thing. Not so fast, my friend. So membership committee says, "Yeah, thanks for participating, but we're going to take the other guy. He has more experience."
Which is a fair line of questioning for the membership committee to look at. You have to look at a lot of
Yes.
things. To judge it solely on that, not quite right, because you want to know the person, but
It was
something people have heard before.
It was a great teaching moment for me because what I realized is those 9, 10, 11 members of that chapter that absolutely loved me and wanted to go to bat for me were not the members on the membership committee that were making the decision. Well, that was important for me to know. while I had a lot of equity with a lot of the members, I hadn't met with anybody on membership just because I didn't know it was their real decision to make. So yet again, you kind of pick yourself up, you dust yourself off. And
Yeah.
I'll never forget it. I was over at a ribbon cutting ceremony for the Durham Chamber of Commerce, and a member of that chapter that had declined me, Tim Hinton,
Mhm.
was a consulting director for a chapter over near Briar Creek. And he said, "Hey, Matt, like, if there's no weirdness here or insecurities or ill will towards BNI, there's a chapter right around the corner from your house. Closer, cheaper, better start time. I'm the consultant director. You might want to come check it out." So
Okay.
I took Tim's advice, went over to Triangle Business Builders, walked into that room probably February, March of 2012, and I've been there ever since.
What was it about that chapter that drew you to that?
There were two things that drew me to it, and there's two things that drew me away from it on the time will tell front. I walk in, and immediately there's a financial planner who has an Eastern European Slavic background like myself, who literally went to high school right across town from me. I thought, oh, that's kind of neat. Way to make the
Mhm.
area smaller. And then there was another gentleman who was a huge, proud University of Maryland grad where I was an undergrad. So
There
that
you
was the
go.
connection.
Mhm.
And then a great lesson that I learned along the way is I looked around the room and I thought, okay, I'm a credit card processor. Top referral partners for me are going to be the banker, the accountant, the payroll processor, all of those folks that are in B2B financial, the commercial realtor that says, hey, I just have a tenant that opened up. And when I walked into the room, no banker, no payroll person, no business attorney,
There you go.
no security person, no commercial realtor. And I thought, well, this is wonderful. So am I going to have to get a good start relying on referrals from the carpet cleaner in Northern Durham and the vitamin supplement hawker? How's that going to work out? But what I realized by taking away the prejudice and
Mhm.
making time to meet with those people, the carpet cleaner truly is one of a kind. David Stein's at One of a Kind Carpet Cleaning. David has literally walked me into clients and said, you need to do business with Matt. And the vitamin supplement hawker, okay, very far from it. The guy was master educated in zoology, a certified business coach, and a certified life coach.
Wow.
And there's no surprise that he and his wife are some of the top producers for Juice Plus across the entire Mid Atlantic. So when the vitamin supplement hawker, the Juice Plus rep, John Robinson, literally walks me down to one of his clients and says, I will not buy any more product from you until you first hire Matt as your processor.
Wow.
I thought, wow, this
Yeah.
group has traction. So when we grew and we did have the accountant, and when we added the banker, and we added the business attorney, and when we added the security person and the commercial realtor, then it just took off.
I've often said that I love the unexpected referrals that you just come out of nowhere. That's love some of those because it shows that you put in the legwork to make that happen. Is they've gotten to know you, you've gotten to know them, and like I said,
Yeah.
with a carpet cleaner and a credit card processor, I mean, not quite the odd couple, but two you wouldn't put in the same boat.
It's a great lesson, and I would hope that everybody watching and listening today takes that advice to heed.
If you are not familiar with BNI or never have been to a BNI chapter, we recommend you go to trianglebni.com. There's a pull down button there that says find a chapter, and you can click on that. Pick your day, pick your time, pick your location in the triangle, go visit. It is seat specific, and that's what those of us in BNI love about it, is there's only one credit card processor in the chapter. So everybody there is referring to Matt because they like him and they know him, and that's the beauty of how that works. Steve Hand, the executive director of Triangle BNI, has grown this area very well over the last few years. A lot of good people in there, and they do a lot of good things in the community, and they also help each other grow their business. When we talk about referrals, it's not a lead. A lead just doesn't work. A lead is, hey, my neighbor's having trouble with his lawnmower. Give him a call. It doesn't mean your neighbor wants to talk to somebody to fix his lawnmower. A referral is somebody you've met that needs Matt's services. So somebody I would have met that mentioned, oh, my credit card stuff's awful. So now I know they have a need, and I go to Matt, and that's the beauty of BNI. That's what that's based on, is passing referrals each week. We talk about givers gain a lot every week, but that's what that is giving someone a qualified referral. I don't even want to call it a qualified lead because it's better. It is a warm introduction to somebody who needs your service, and that's the beauty of the BNI meeting each week. Is you've got 20, 21 salespeople on your team?
We have at Triangle Business Builders right now, I believe, 26 members with
Okay.
2 more applications coming. And I mentioned this in the meeting last week. Yes, it's true. We all should look at each other as our sales force. But I said I look at everybody sitting in this room every Thursday morning beyond just my sales force. I look at them as my advisory. So I've had real good sit down, heartfelt one to ones with at least 3 members in the past week saying, hey, here's one of the things I'm encountering in my business. Here's some challenges that I think I need to overcome. I want to get your perspective on that. And it goes beyond just passing the referrals, passing the leads. In my opinion, these are some of my most trusted allies and truthfully personal confidants. And when you look at it as an advisory board beyond just a sales staff, I think that's when you can really, really
Mm.
benefit the most from what BNI has to offer.
So when you started in BNI, you were maybe a year into credit card processing, if that long?
Not even that. It was
Okay.
honestly pretty quick. I got in the industry that fall and then started applying the following spring.
So by about 2013 or 2014, let's go 2013, the percentage of your revenue that was from BNI. You recall?
It was a majority of it.
Yeah.
And still to this day, when I go through my monthly earnings, easily 70, 75%, if not more, of that monthly revenue that I've been able to generate for my family
Yep.
is in one way, shape, form tracked directly back to me.
So what did you learn when you walked away from, I guess, either the first time you met with your current chapter or once you were inducted into the chapter? What were the first couple things you learned that how that was going to work to help you grow your business?
Well, it kind of goes back to what I try and preach as much as I can as a consultant director. There are several ways you can measure your success and or your goals and expectations out of BNI. For me, most immediately, I was seeking confirmation. If I am going to stand up in that room every week and try and convince folks that I'm worth their vote, their referral as a credit card processor, I have to first convince myself that I'm worth their vote.
Okay.
So entering the credit card processing industry in the fall of 2011 was a completely new arena, a completely new industry for me. And one of the best teaching lessons I got from BNI was the confirmation that, yes, Matt, like you are now a credit card processor. This is how you're going to raise your family. And these are the standards that you need to meet for yourself and your clients. So for me to have to convey that
Mm.
in a very, very effective and lobbying way to those members in the room, I had to first do it to myself. And once you do that, you're off to the races.
Okay. So there's many parts to BNI. There's the one-to-ones, bringing visitors, passing referrals, and all that. A lot of times it's difficult to be the top producer in all of those. So which of those categories do you find are easiest for you to excel in that help the chapter? And what? So let's start with that one. Which ones did you find were easier for you to help grow the chapter?
I've almost always led the chapter in one to ones and shortly thereafter, the visitors. One to ones, if you can't have conversations with those that know, like, and trust you, then BNI is probably not a good thing for you. And what better way to let people know how they can best help than conveying that? So the one to ones, which are either sit downs, I had a quick 10-minute phone call 2 weeks ago from a longtime member, learned some great stuff. Friday afternoon, pretty much wrapped up all my work, sent a quick text to Laird Hepburn, our financial planner. Hey, you want to get together for a quick happy hour? Pretty much all my work's done. I know you're out of an office right now. Said, sure, tell me when. Turned out to be a 2.5 hour
Yeah.
one-to-one over at our host venue at Trolley Irish Pub in Raleigh. So the one-to-ones are critical because the best way I can make decisions on how to best refer you, it's going to come from good information, right?
Yeah.
How do you gain good information? You sit down and ask the questions. So one-to-ones are absolutely critical. I don't take those for granted, and it's something that I'm always willing to do. And they don't have to be long. And then Steve Hand always says, a visitor is worth $1,000 per member. All I know is the more people that are in that room hearing our messages,
Yes.
the more chance our members can be successful. So those are the two that I've really, really focused on quite a bit. And I think as a result, have continued to lead the way.
So before we started, you were going to tell a funny story about where your chapter meets.
Yeah, it's fascinating. We talk about BNI being the ultimate giver's gain, and there are several things that make each chapter unique, one of which is their meeting time and meeting place. So we had been meeting at a restaurant in Briar Creek for years. We go up to the doors, 8 o'clock on a frigid February morning with a sign that says, "Hey, thanks for your years of patronage, but this location is now permanently
I
closed."
drive by that every now and then, yes.
And I thought, wow, that's pretty short notice. Looked like they were doing great Saturday night when I drove past here. A little heads up would have been cool. But it was interesting because then you're wondering what to do.
Mhm.
And I placed a call to Eamon Kelly, who's one of the co-owners of Charlie Irish Pub. And I basically said, hey, I'm coming to you hat in hand. We got about 25 professional business owners that meet for about an hour and a half every Thursday morning to exchange good best practices, try and help grow each other's businesses. We just lost our meeting venue. Is there any way you could hook us up for maybe the next week or two? And Eamon looked at me and said, I'll make it an easy decision. Mi casa, su casa. After all, like an Irish pub is
Yeah.
a public house. That's
Yeah.
what the word pub comes from, public house. In his mind, what better way to be a good steward of the community than to
Yeah.
open this up? So he was very grateful to do that for us about 2.5 years ago. And we recognize and honor Charlie Irish Pub over there at Briardale Shopping Center, charlieirishpub.com.
There you go. Now, how did you know him?
I knew of Eamon through our relationship over at St. Francis of Assisi, our church together. It's a pretty large parish. I had always known of him, although we didn't know each other personally. And I pretty much just took it upon myself to go knocking on a bunch of doors in the Briar Creek area. And fortunately, one of the white staff said, yeah, here's the cell number. Give him a quick call.
Very nice. So was everybody at the front door of the old place? Is that how you knew it was out of business?
Pretty much.
And where was the meeting that morning?
We,
Bob Evans?
Earth Fair.
You and I met there. We did a one-to-one there once. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well, they got some revenue out of it, right?
Yeah,
Got
they
some
did. And
practice
it
out of
was,
it.
but again, you kind of go back to the giver's gain. And it was a great, great example of when you're willing to ask for help. I genuinely think
No.
most people are willing to help you, but you got to ask and you got to be humble and you got to listen. And isn't that really true with BNI too?
Yes. Yeah, one of the constant themes we've talked about on the show is, and again, if you've never been to a BNI meeting, we go around the room and each member gets, depending on the size of your group, 30 to 45 seconds to stand up. Hey, I'm Mike. Here's what I do. What most people don't do is follow that up with a very specific, here's who I'm looking to meet, instead of like, oh, I need anybody that's got bug problems. Well, that's not going to motivate anybody. It's like if you stood up and go, yeah, I just need to meet somebody that they use credit cards at their place.
Right.
And most people, it's not going to trigger them to even look at you and go, I know a guy or I know a woman.
That's absolutely right. And if I can maybe just step up onto the proverbial soapbox,
Fire away, man.
among the most very important traits or lessons I think any BNI member can take to heart to be successful is don't ever take your seat position for granted. I hold the mortgage lending seat in the chapter. Good for you. Now, in my mind, I may have no shortage of mortgage lenders that I prefer. And my top two mortgage lenders are mortgage lenders I have known far beyond you coming into our BNI chapter. Now, that should not be a deterrent to joining BNI. That should not be a deterrent to having success in BNI. What it should be is a call to action, which means as the new mortgage lender of record in this chapter, I have to gain the equity position in that realtor's mind. I have to gain that equity position in the personal insurance seed holder's mind that I need to be the mortgage lender of choice in their mind, not just on the chapter roster seat. And I believe very, very hard what you just said, Mike. One of the most effective ways to do that is showing up for every meeting. And in that 30 seconds, 60 seconds, giving us a compelling reason on why you need to gain that equity position. You will never, ever hear me say, here's what I do and here's who I'm looking to meet.
I've been in the business 18 years. That
Good for freaking you. What I will always do is don't tell me what you do. Tell me what you've done.
Yeah.
Because it goes back to those elements of success. Got to know what you're doing. Got to know you know what you're doing. And the way you get rich and successful, become known for what you know. If I said, hey, I would love an introduction to your favorite Friday night takeout pizza joint.
Perfect.
Great. Yep. So would the 3 other credit card processors I met in the last couple of years. Matt, you haven't given me a reason to feel you're good enough to introduce me to the pizza owner. Versus, I would love more introductions to people like my client, Randy Smith, who owns Randy's Pizza, for whom I have now grown year after year after year to the point where I'm the only credit card processor he uses for every future store. Now, there's a big, big difference on that. I haven't told you what I'm looking for. Instead, I've told you what I've done. Now, I've used a specific client example to gain the credibility to back up my words. So don't tell us what you do. Tell us what you've done. Don't tell us who you're looking for. Tell us who you've served specifically. And that's what really, really gains that equity position in the minds of your peers that are in that room every day.
And in the service world, I enjoy when I get a chance to stand up and talk, say, oh, yeah, by the way, on the commercial side, we just renewed for one of our bigger clients. Just
Absolutely.
let people know, hey, just little town around here just renewed for another year. That we are their official, so I love things like that. You have a story, again, on your, in your bio stuff about a chiropractor in your group and why it took so long to become a client of your chiropractor, if I have it right.
Yeah, it's fascinating. When you first join BNI, you're asked to fill out one of those member bios. And one of the questions in there is, what's your favorite BNI success story? And I thought, well, there's several, knock on wood, thankfully.
Mhm.
But maybe I'll go back to Triangle Chiropractic. We have had a very, very long-term successful chiropractor in our chapter. And after several months, first year or so of me being in the chapter, it was kind of odd because I had several members come up to me and said, "Hey, are you doing the processing over there for Dr. J?" And I said, "No, I mean, not yet. I mean, hopefully at some point maybe I will, but no pressure. He knows how to reach me.
Mhm.
I'm not going to be hounding down a fellow member trying to sell my services to him. If he feels I have value, great. If he doesn't, then I need to work on that. But he knows how to reach me. And if he does come on board, I want it to be at the right time for the right reasons." So when the right time came about for that particular fellow BNI member to have a conversation with me, we did. And when he awarded me with the business, it was for all the right reasons, and they've been my client ever since.
So timing plays a lot, especially in
Well,
some seats, timing plays a role.
it's not even so much timing. Again, it sort of goes back to those three elements of success. There was no arrogance or cockiness on
Mm.
my part. It was, hopefully I've done a good enough reason every week for him to think of me when he's in need of my product and service. When the time comes, great. I'll be glad to serve him. If that time doesn't come about, I'm not going to wait either. It kind of comes down to, there's that phrase that the starving salesperson never gets bought. There's a difference between being competitive and being desperate. And
Yes.
at that point, while I was still starting out, sure, I needed clients just like everybody else,
Yeah.
but I wasn't going to go begging for business. He knows what I can do. And
Yeah.
if he's open to it and we want to have that conversation, great. But I'm not going to go hound one of my fellow members. And it's a very, very important lesson I think we should all kind of take to heart in BNI. Goal in BNI is not to do direct business with your fellow members. You
Yes.
shouldn't join thinking, wow, that's great.
I've
She's going to be my client and she's going to be my client. And if I'm any good, he's going to be my client.
Yeah.
They're probably going to first want to test you out with others first. It's just the natural human condition.
Yep. So as a consultant, we talked earlier, you as a consulting director. So in like the first year and a half as a BNI member, what did you learn from that you now are able, and consulting director real quick, oversees chapters that they're there to help chapters with any questions, emails, texts, all that good stuff, just to help them grow and get better, or just answer simple questions if they're new. So what did that first year and a half in BNI do for you to become a quality consulting director that you are now? And I say that because I know
Sure.
you are.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't take that lightly. I try and work hard on all aspects of that. The quick answer to that is the 10-minute tests, 10-minute presentations that you do on a rotating basis throughout the year. I always sent those to Steve Hand. So I would do a PowerPoint presentation of the types of clients I've served and the products and services I've provided. Slide 1.
Okay.
Next client, this type of product and service sold into this client. Slide 2. So I put a lot of preparation in those, and I would always email them to Steve. Hey, Steve, sorry I couldn't see you in my 10-minute presentation last week. Here's the presentation attached. When you speak of me, please speak kindly. And after a while of doing that, Steve does what he does, which is, hey, man, would you ever think about being a consultant director? Some good stuff here. And I thought, sure, it's at least worth a conversation. Again, if a decision is going to be made,
Mhm.
Good decisions come from good information. Let me at least gain some information on a sit down with Steve. And I realized, you know what, I wouldn't be where I was today without BNI. Maybe this is a good way to give back a little bit. Kind of comes back to my faith a little bit. We had a pastor over at St. Francis that always said it's our obligation to give of our time, our talent, and our treasure. I thought, well, I'm building the treasure. Time is at a shortage, just like everybody. Talent, well, that's kind of subjective. Well, all I know is BNI has been good to me. If I can give back some of my time and talents to BNI, then great. If it helps my business along the way, super. But that's not going to be my sole motivation. And yeah, that was probably what, about 3 or 4 years ago, I
Yeah.
guess now.
Yeah, I'm with you about I don't do this for business. Somebody calls one day, great, but I'm with you. I just enjoy helping and get a lot of nice emails and phone calls from people once they hear you, they know that you've got equity in their group,
Oh,
and they
absolutely.
and then they send you nice notes. Thanks for the help on this. We've just done fill in the blank, grown this line or that line or whatever. So when you sit down with their new leadership teams, twice a year,
Mhm.
BNI changes over leadership team, although things just going to annual now. What do you like to do with the leadership team? There's in every chapter, there's a president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, visitors, host, membership committee, education coordinator. What are your goals with them each time there's a new leadership team?
I only really have kind of one goal with the chapters that I've worked with in the past. Clearly, BNI has all type of structure and guidelines and protocols, and they have rules for every type of activity that could ever happen. And it's the job of the leadership team at each chapter to be able to execute and comply with those guidelines with the support and help of their consultant director. However, in my opinion, the how to does not matter at all. Hey, Matt, how do we effectively bring in this type of seat?
Mm.
Hey, Matt, how do we officially and by the book address this problem with one of our members? Hey, Matt, how do we officially start looking at a different venue? Those how to questions will always come when you're sitting in the chapter consultant director role, and they should, because that's what the chapter is leaning on you for. However, I could talk till I'm blue in the face about the how to, but if at the chapter level the want to is not there, none of that matters. So I don't sit down with the leadership team every year and say, okay, what are your goals? How can I help you achieve those? It's a pretty quick read, just like you read your clients. You're going to get an idea of where this chapter is trying to go. And I think one of the reasons I've had a lot of respect as a consultant director is I don't skirt the details and I don't beat around the bush. I have pretty much made it clear to the chapters that I work with. I can tell you everything you need to do to be successful, but the desire on your end has to first be.
Yes.
The how to can be learned online. The how to can be learned on a phone call with me. The how to can be learned by attending training. But if the want to isn't there, it doesn't matter. So I believe as a consultant director, I kind of have two things to do: teach them the rules and then inspire them. If they're not inspired and driven to be the absolute best they can be, the details don't matter.
Yeah, because a lot of chapters will tell you, I know we're sitting at 12 members. We really, really want to grow. And then you start going through, a couple ways to do that. And how do you invite visitors? Well, yeah, we're just not real good at that. And nobody seems to really want to do that.
Yeah, it's
It's
fascinating. I mean, there's no skirting it.
no.
None of the chapters have to listen to any of our advice as consultant directors. They don't. Great, thanks. We'll
Yeah.
let you know if we
Yeah.
ever need you. Okay, that's fine, and that's
He's
realistic.
yeah. He's Steve Spy in the room.
But to those that really, really want to grow
Yeah.
or achieve a whole nother level of excellence, great. Ask the question and then listen to what we have to say, follow our advice, follow our recommendations, and you'll be successful. Because otherwise, none of that matters.
And I try to tell people all the time that these processes are in place for a reason. Around the world, they've worked. And there's a reason why chapters do
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z, do X, Y, and Z. They're going to succeed.
The chapters are going to succeed and individual members are going to succeed based on the following. And when I say this to chapters, you could basically just see all the jaws hit the ground and the eyes get real big. But I pretty much early on with new members in our own chapter and is my role as a consultant director, I'll look folks in the eye and say, all right, here's the deal. The reason BNI works is because it's inherently inconvenient. Period. This is a huge demand on your time, on your talent, on your pocketbook. Why on earth, at a minimum, would I invest several hours every week in something that I gotta pay to be privileged to and give of all that time and follow all these rules? And if I don't, be either kicked out or in the marketplace ruled out by my peers. Why on God's earth would I want to get into something like that? That just sounds like a headache waiting to happen. So when you dunk people in that boiling vat of oil right out of the bat and then pull them out and say, but it could be better.
Yeah.
So the reason BNI works and the reason people are so successful is because it has to work. Why else would you invest all that time and energy and money without the goal of making it work?
Yes.
So my feeling is people join BNI and people leave BNI for the exact same reason. It worked for me. It didn't work for me. Okay, let's talk about that, Mike. As your fellow member, as your consultant director, what's the it? Well, what do you mean, what's the it? I want to know what the it is. What are you trying to get out of this? For me, what did I say half hour ago? For me, early on, it was the confirmation that, hey, I'm a credit card processor now till death do us part, until something else changes. So I got to first convince people. How well have you articulated to your chapter that the reason you're here is really, you've already made your money in life. You just want some camaraderie.
Yeah.
Or, hey, just because you're the network IT guy, people think if it gets plugged into the wall that I'm responsible for it. You need contacts. You need people to refer your clients to do the best job for your clients. For others, hey man, 6% of a home sale is a pretty big number. For me, it's all about the Benjamins and the capital. Okay, how well have you articulated to your members what your specific goal that you're trying to measure your time against is?
Oh, yeah.
Does Mike really know at the end of my renewal term how I'm going to be judging whether this was successful or not? If he does, great. If he doesn't, then shame on you, because you're going to make a decision to either renew BNI or join BNI based on how well your members know what your goal is. It's very, very common sense, basic stuff that can be oftentimes overlooked.
Yeah, and I'll hear a couple people will state, especially at the beginning of a calendar year, they'll state, hey, my goal for 2018 is, our insurance guy wanted to write more life insurance policies. So he told us, he goes, 100. I'm going to write 100 this year. This is where I need my help. This is where I'm going to meet with everybody. And this is what I'm looking for. I thought, now
I had a member say in the room one time, right around renewal time, here's my new goal for the next year. I don't want to miss more than 2 meetings in the entire year. Because quite honestly, you got to be in it to win it. The first part of anything in life is showing up. And I thought, way to go. That's a great attitude. So how well do you articulate what you're trying to get out of this? Because at the end of the day, we all want you to be successful. We all want you to renew. We want you to be in the room every week. And if we don't know how to get you there, then shame on you. That's your job to let us know most effective, which goes back to having the one-to-one, which is what I always try and pride myself on.
Did you meet his goal?
Yes.
Good. Always, every now and then when we get a chance to talk to people just getting ready to come out of college and putting their life plan in for work together and all that. And you just try to break it down for people. As I get older, I'm learning, just break it down to simple stuff that people can understand. And something you mentioned earlier, just show up. If you're an unpaid intern, just show up, and then show up the second day and the third day. And the other 8 people, they'll take themselves out pretty quick. And then all of a sudden by week 2, you're one of 2 left. Man, this guy Matt keeps showing up every day. Let's get him something, just show up.
And the warm bodies in the room, the attendance policy, it's there for a reason, but showing up is huge. And if you can't show up, hey, we know at some point you're going to wake up and just feel awful and you're not going to be able to make it and react. Well, that's fine. That's why you're allowed unexcused absences up to a limit. But the reason it's so important to have a sub there is, hey, you know what? I've been in that room for 3 straight years. I think I got a pretty good idea of what people know, what I do. 1 week off isn't really going to hurt my equity in the room. People aren't just going to forget what I do if I'm not there this week. Okay, I understand that mentality. However, without having a sub come for you, you know what else happens? Something that doesn't happen. Someone else doesn't get to hear about Arrest-A-Pet. Yeah. Somebody else doesn't get to hear about the window gal who has a passion for window fashion.
Yeah.
Everybody else's message didn't get heard by some potential client that would have been covering you. That's why the substitute policy is so important.
in my the first chapter I was in, Ted Brown with Got You Covered window treatments. It was one of those days. It's like, oh man, okay, I'll go. And he showed up, and a visitor walks in. I think if I remember right, it's like a $40,000 deal, just because you know what, I probably need to go because you. And there are more stories like this at BNI. You just never know that one visitor that's going to walk in. You may
Right.
not be there one day. The person that has 9 locations of a business said, "Oh yeah, a friend of mine said I needed to visit BNI one day," and there's no mention of retained revenue there. It's just one of those things. But you mentioned earlier though, a lot of us go not only for the business, but you make some really good friendships as well. And then the strong chapters I've known do well outside the chapter. They meet. Do I know you guys have? I know you're part of. You're tournament director for Tee It Up for BCAN. I know things like that strengthen a chapter as well.
Oh, absolutely. It's one thing to gain all the equity within your
Mm.
chapter, and then it's another to proliferate that among other chapters. So while it's important to bring visitors into the room, it's equally important to go out and meet other chapters, find
Yes.
out else was going.
Oh yeah.
And it was interesting because going back to those 10-minute PowerPoint presentations that I've done over the years, I would typically close the presentation with that video clip, that screenshot of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid when they're up on the cliff
Yes.
looking down the valley, and they got Lord Baltimore and his
Yeah.
little horse posse tracking him. And if you remember that scene, Butch leans over to Sundance and says, "Who are these guys?" So after I give product and service to this kind of client,
Yeah.
slide 2, product and service into this kind of client, slide 3, provided this product and service to this client. Butch and Sundance, who are these guys? What do every one of these people have in common?
They're all after them.
They were all visitors to the Triangle Business Builders.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And what's
Yeah.
the message there, Matt? They could have been your dadgum clients too.
Yeah.
If you were here today.
Yeah.
So you flash forward 6 more months and it's time for me to do another presentation. Slide 2, slide 3, slide 4, slide 5. And they know what's coming at the end. Here's Butch and Sundance again. Who are these guys? What do every one of these clients have in common? They're clients I met visiting other BNI chapters.
Yeah.
Which means what? Get out and visit other BNI chapters. Those could have been your clients too.
Oh yeah. And then at the end of the scene when they were jumping and Sundance says, "I can't swim," and Butch said, "Oh, the fall will probably kill you."
I got good advice from a sitting consultant director when I was thinking about becoming a consultant director. He said, "Well, you can always quit."
No,
I haven't.
not good. Not too good. So your background is sales. You've been a sales guy for a long, long time. I know Tar Heel Sports Network, and you and I have a connection through NASCAR. You were at MRN.
Yes.
Motor Racing Network, if you're not a big NASCAR fan, based out of Charlotte. How much did you enjoy those two, and do you miss the sports side of selling?
Yes. There was no replacing driving around back in the day in my little 300ZX all over 50,000 square miles of the state of North Carolina, drumming up business. You know, you'd walk into an advertiser, you'd walk into a radio station, you'd have the Carolina blue tie on, the lapel, flash a toothy white smile. "Hey, how would you like to be on the air?" And that was cool. And then next thing you know, you're at the infield of Talladega sitting down with Visa trying to put together a campaign thinking, "Oh my God, I got the NASCAR bar on my shoulder and the biggest independent sports radio network in the country at their disposal. This is cool." That was a little bit of an ego trip. There's no doubt about it. That was fun. In local broadcast radio, Curtis Media Group was my home for 9 years. Awesome operation. They were my clients before they were my employer, and they don't get any better. The biggest single market radio operator left in America today. And there was a difference. I'll never forget. I made a trip with MRN up to Richmond to bring on a big sponsorship campaign with Circuit City for the second half of the year.
Ooh,
It
that
was
was long ago,
several
wasn't it?
$100,000 for about the last 4 or 5 months of the season.
Wow.
And wow is the word. They're bankrupt a year later.
Mm.
You know, what was the impact on that? Flash forward a couple years. Now I'm in local media sales in Raleigh-Durham with Curtis Media Group. And those clients know exactly where that ad revenue is coming from. If I'm going to invest this kind of money, have this kind of message heard by these kind of people on your radio dials, this is going to work, right? Matt,
Yeah.
this is going to work.
Yeah.
This is my vacation money. This is my kid's orthodontic treatment.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
this is going to work. Like
Oh,
those
it's
local business
personal.
owners know. So it was a different type of selling, but I think there's two real cool traits with all sales folks. Number one, they focus more on selling their clients' inventory than they do their own. And they know without a shadow of a doubt that they work for their clients and not the employer. And when you have that mentality, you'll do fine.
So when you make the jump to credit card processing, what was that aha moment? It's like, okay, I can do this. This is gonna work.
The one call close, when you can truly walk in and say, so Mike, I got introduced to you by Johnny Farquharson in my BNI group. Tell me what you got going on. Tell me about your credit card processing. You tell me everything you like, don't like. I listen to that. I'm not going to pitch you or give you a quote or an offer. I'm going to say, okay, everything that you said, Mike, doesn't have to be that way. Here's my recommendation. Here's how we can fix that. And when those clients said, I'm with you, man. What do I need to do next? Well, there's some paperwork involved. We got to run you through underwriting. I can do that for you right now. And when more of those folks started signing right then and there on that first sit down introduction, that was the
Very nice. One of the things I like about telling people about BNI is not only are you going to meet some quality business people that are going to send you some referrals if you do your job the right way, and also will you make some friends, but the quality of the people in BNI, many of them are focused on the community as well, as you mentioned a couple of times. I know with your as tournament director for the golf tournament and through St. Francis Church, you're very involved in the community, and I know that's important to you.
It's important. And those are quite honestly the only two things that I'm focused on right now outside of my business. And there's plenty of opportunity to always get involved within the community, but I think generally speaking, whatever you do, you better do it well. So Stephen Dunn of Graphic Solutions, there's a lot of good reasons why he put that tournament together. Stephen's one of my best buddies that I ever met through BNI. Stephen's a great client of mine. My cousin is dying of bladder cancer right now. You think I'm going to get behind that cause and support him? Of course. I'd been supporting the tournament in my time and talent long before the diagnosis with my cousin. So everybody likes to say, look how popular I am. I do this and I do that. I'm such a great community steward. But the key is, in my world, make sure whatever you do it very, very well. So my family, my clients, my church, the golf tournament, that's where I focus most of my energy.
Do you have much of a golf game these days?
I have too much respect for the game of golf to play the game of golf. It's the stories I could tell about me in a golf course are not very flattering. But I'll do anything.
Are you one of those players that you're good in a scramble because either you're good off the tee box or you can putt?
No, I'm the guy who basically is told, hey, Matt, if you're just going to be driving the cart, that's fine. But there's a 90-degree cart roll you got to turn on here. So when I turn off of the, what's it called, sidewalk, onto the course and half of my foursome goes tumbling out of the car, that's probably not a reason for me to want to go. Matt, you probably need to like lay up. I would just chip it up there, use this club. I don't think you need the strength of that. Well, you didn't do what I said, and now the ball basically overshot the green and is in the other tee box. So why don't we just have you drive the beverage cart? No, I'm not the golf guy.
But that makes you good at telling people what not to do, right?
Exactly.
Don't hit it in the water.
You pick and choose. I think the most reverence I have to golf courses is I want to know when they're closed so I can take my bait and tackle and maybe fish in the ponds.
There you go. Okay. Well, there's your next line of business, though. Not only could you fish in the ponds, but you can recover all the golf balls in there, wash them up and sell them.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
There's probably an online market for that.
There's very much an online market on that. Oh, yeah. Especially if you get in one of the couple of the nicer courses.
That's outstanding.
And these are these brand new Pro V1s that are in the bottom of these leagues. Just a thought. We're here to help. So again, this is middle of August 2018. What's the goal? Do you set goals for the business? And what are you looking at through the end of 19? Looking at a year and plus.
I have had the same goal when I was at Tar Heel Sports Marketing, Motor Racing Network, Curtis Media Group, and now running my own operation in credit card processing 10, 15 years. And that goal is this. Each day, I want to be able to meet and interact with at least one new person who has the ability to become. And I want to ask for the business. I want to ask for the sale. Oh, you're going to do the trial close. No, I want to get a decision
Yeah.
on whether we're moving ahead on this recommendation or not. If I can do those two things each day, that's my goal. And then the growth is simply a result of
Oh,
those
yeah.
actions.
Yeah.
Now, there will be days where I won't have any interaction with somebody completely new, either in person on the phone, walking in off the street, following up an email, a quick phone conversation. There are certainly days where that doesn't happen. But that's okay because I did 3 of those yesterday.
Yeah.
But if I focus on that, and I think that's a pretty realistic sales goal for
one
most
new
folks
person each day on average.
who has the ability to spend with you,
Yeah.
and then ask for the business, ask for the sale.
Yeah.
At least once a
Okay.
day. And that seems to be working
And BNI, you mentioned earlier, is still about 3/4.
easily. And out of that, well over half, actually the majority is from that category at the bottom of the BNI tracker sheet that says other.
Yeah.
Those are former members. Those
Yeah.
are members from other BNI chapters.
Do you remember your first BNI client? Or first client through BNI?
I believe it was from John Robinson,
Okay.
Homebrew Supply Store.
Yeah.
I'm not playing around with you guys
Huh?
anymore. Like literally, honestly, unless you hire Matt as your credit card processor, we're not doing this anymore. I'm going to find another place to buy my
That's
stuff.
almost the ultimate testament.
Isn't
when,
that great?
When somebody puts their money on the
Isn't
line
that
for you.
unbelievable?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it was interesting because listening to some of the previous podcasts, going back to what Steven said, you should know your clients well enough that you're willing to stake your reputation on it. And you should know your clients well enough that you can recite their commercial messages verbatim.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. So if you want to be that person, you want to meet that person who'll put their money on the line for you and recommend you, please go visit a BNI chapter. If you have you or somebody you know has a small business, getting ready to start a new business, wants to help it grow, we believe, we're big fans of BNI. As you can tell, BNI is the way to go. You can call Steve, Mary, or Brenda at the BNI office, trianglebni.com or 919-465-1667. There are plenty of Matt stories out there. We bring these to you each week. And if you want to hear more of those, you can go to the website here and listen to some of the shows we've already done. But BNI, if you activate it and if you work it correctly, it will grow your business. And we know that because we've seen it. We've seen people not grow their business, but they didn't put the time into it that they should have. So, Matt, we thank you for being here today. Glad to hear your story. And next week, we've got Brianna Postlethwaite with Liberty Mutual Insurance. And Brianna, I hope I got your name right. But she'll be our guest next week on Triangle BNI, and we thank you for watching.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.